Why, hello, one and all. I am an awesome video game developer with 11 years experience working across 12 different game engines, representing 2.5 decades of gaming technology going all the way back to 1997. And today, with all that experience, I'm going to be looking at... cats interrupting video, ignore. I'm going to be looking at this Unreal Engine 5 early access trailer. For those who aren't aware, Unreal Engine 5 is the new video game engine that was just released a few weeks ago, and so today we're going to be reviewing its new features. We'll see exactly how revolutionary they are and what this might mean for gaming in general going forward. So let's go ahead and watch. Now, this isn't exactly like a features trailer, so it's going to be another person talking, explaining what's going on. But I've looked at little parts of it, and that's mostly what it is, I think. And so we'll see how it works out. Now, yeah, so, okay. This is my first time doing a reaction video like this, so we'll see how it goes. We'll go ahead and make it full screen. We'll go ahead and watch. I will pause from time to time.
Hi, I'm Chance Ivy, Senior Technical Designer at Epic Games.
And I'm Galen Davis, Producer and Evangelist for Quixel at Epic Games.
Last summer, we revealed the first look at what's coming in Unreal Engine 5, the next generation of our real-time technology, and our demo, Lumen in the Land of Nanite. Since then...
Yeah, I think I saw that demo they were talking about, but again, that was a long time ago, and I don't remember much from it. So for the most part, I'm going in with this with a completely fresh eye.
Has been working hard on preparing the tools and technology for creators around the world to get their hands on, so that they can explore the new features and provide us with...
Sounds good.
Now, just a few months ago, we assembled a small team of developers to see what they could build using these new features. The result is
small team, how small?
Project called Valley of the Ancients.
See, that's what I wanted to know. Is like, how small of a team do you actually need to use all these new features? Because one thing with new engines nowadays is they always have new, very special features. But then when you have a lot of special features, you need specialists for those features, and it's harder to have a jack of all trades who can do everything. Not that you always want jacks of all trades, but the people starting out, you know, the more stuff there is to do, the harder it is to start out.
And today we're excited to give you the very first hands-on look at some of the new tools and workflows that we use to build it.
Now, we've got a lot to get to, so let's get started.
When setting out to make our demo, we wanted to push the boundaries of what's possible with UE5 today, while targeting next-gen hardware specifications. Here are sequences running in real time on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X.
Yeah, that's visually impressive. Game graphics over the years have definitely gotten better. Now, how much of that is like pre-baked into just how quality these assets are versus the engine's ability to render those? I don't know. You'd have to go deep diving into their shader tutorial videos to find that out, but okay. But yes, visually impressive.
Okay, welcome to the brand new UI in Unreal Engine 5. While a lot of the same features and functionality that you've come to know in UE4 are still present in the new UI, we've added several new systems that put you at the center of the experience. For example, the content browser can now be accessed like a drawer using hotkeys, allowing you to keep a clean workspace while still having access to all the content that you need. We can also collapse and restore editor tabs to and from the sidebar.
Okay, I guess I know this is like a tutorial, but I really hate this field of view on this camera. We can't hardly see anything. Everything's like crammed together, I guess, within this view. So hopefully that's just for the
maximizing the viewport experience. And you're going to see a lot more of the UI as we get further into this presentation, but we can't wait for you to get your hands on it. Now, one of the main features of Unreal Engine 5 is Nanite, our virtualized micropolygon geometry system that frees artists to create as much geometric detail as the eye can see.
frees artists or gives them more work to do. We'll see. I mean, because like, oh, in order to get Nanite to work, you need these extra textures that define the this or that. And it's like, okay.
Virtualized geometry supports orders of magnitude more triangles without compromising speed.
Be like, how much of that is just automatic versus the artists putting extra work? I mean, I get it's still cool new technology, right? But you know, like, there's only so many pixels on a screen to a point where having, oh, this little pebble is, instead of 2 triangles, it's 10. You know, no one's going to notice that. You might as well just use a parallax mapping, which is only textures and math, so there's actually no geometry. But okay, sorry.
It replaces the traditional system of mesh LODs, handling all detailed terrain.
I mean, this kind of terrain, like, okay, so this kind of terrain here, where it's very rocky, lots of overhangs. This is where this could be useful, and so they're smart in that they're strategically using the one type of terrain where this would work, like this nanite feature. Like if you're on like a sandy terrain, where it's just like a sandy flat desert, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between this and just stuff that already exists. Or like in a grassy field, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Transition seamlessly without any additional setup.
Yeah.
In other words, Nanite lets the artist create while the engine does the work. Switching to this Nanite visualization, you can see individual triangles rendered out as different colors here in the viewport. And because the geometry is now virtualized, you can feel free to place assets like these all throughout your scene to fill out a massive player space. Using this debug view, you can see individual instances represented by different colors from swatch to swatch. Each instance in this environment contains around 1 to 2 million triangles, providing enough detail for the camera to roam with complete.
Of course, not all those triangles are rendered at once, but yeah, okay. I see what they're going for though, because it's kind of like, you know, with older, so like this is still definitely like an improvement. You know, with older engines, from what I'm looking at here, with this kind of view, with older engines, including Unreal, or Unreal Engine 4, you would have a displacement, or is what I would call it, where it's just a flat grid, and on different points in the grid, you can move them up and down. And that's it, and so then making a terrain that is complex in a 3D up and down vertically jutting out way, like this specific kind of terrain, be difficult to do with only the built-in like tools instead of only using models. That's actually how much of this is models versus taking textures on terrain and then dynamically generating the terrain to have more detail. I don't know. Hopefully they'll show us that.
Freedom. Now, UE5's new anti-aliasing solution, Temporal Super Resolution, keeps up with all this new geometric detail to create sharper, more stable images than before, with quality approaching true native 4K at the cost of 1080p.
Okay.
While
New
highly
anti-aliasing
detailed
is always
assets are great
good.
on their own, high-quality lighting that realistically reacts to your scene is what opens the door to more dynamic worlds and immersive gameplay. Lumen is our fully dynamic, real-time global illumination solution that immediately reacts to scene and light change, making for more believable experiences. And the GI hooks in directly with our time of day settings, allowing for true physically based setups for photorealistic environments. The Megascans library has meticulously calibrated.
Okay, they just said. Okay, so yeah, this lighting, I'm looking at it, it looks very impressive, especially with how it's interacting with their nanite system they mentioned, where you can see individual pebbles and very individual bumps casting shadows. You know, that's I mean, you could do stuff like that with textures and parallax and displacement mapping, like self-shadowing bump maps. Those existed. But I don't think it was exactly to this fidelity, although that might just be the Unreal Engine being able to handle more fidelity, or this version, Unreal Engine 5 being able to handle more fidelity. So I don't know. That one thing what did they just say? They said something about a library.
Realistic environments. The Megascans library.
Megascans library. So, like, are they saying they use that? And then, I mean, we'll see what they say, but I wonder, does that come with the engine? Or is that purchased separately? Or where does that come from? Is that part of it?
Has meticulously calibrated physical.
Because, like, all these features are amazing, right? But then, if you want this sand pebble texture with that supports all of these new 8K features, right? Oh, you have to pay $50 for this assets pack just for this rocky terrain. I don't know. We'll see.
Physically based
If they say
services
anything
and
about it.
objects in the thousands of assets as of today. And the assets that we're highlighting here show just how powerful it is to have Nanite and Lumen working in tandem.
Yes, that is
Also,
impressive.
thanks to the new Sky Atmosphere system, it is incredibly simple to quickly simulate realistic time of day, carefully art direct volumetric clouds, and make modifications to things like atmospherics, sun position.
Yeah. Okay, so all of this stuff, atmospheric stuff, like, it's always a pain. So, like, in my experience with especially a lot of older engines, including like Unreal Engine 4, getting the sun settings and clouds to look good is very difficult, especially if you don't have a experienced shader programmer to do some shader programming that knows what they're doing with how volumetric clouds work. And so if that's built in and it's like as easy as they're showing here, which it probably isn't, then good for them.
And fog. And for this example, we wanted a fully dynamic scene. No light baking and realistic interpolation between the different times of day. Of course, when in development, having access to high quality content that's easy.
Oh, see, there you go. That's a model. That's not baked in terrain, or that's not generated terrain. That's a model. So that answers that question. Oh, instead of having high quality terrain generation, just pay a lot of money to make or buy high quality models. That's it.
Easy to use, helps you iterate quickly, and saves lots of time that can be better spent elsewhere on your project. With Quixel now being a part of the Epic Games family,
I mean, okay, sorry. Now, of course, models is a good way of making terrain, by all means, but it's not revolutionary.
we've made the
But
full
anyways.
Megascans library free and open for all Unreal Engine users.
Now, that's what I want to hear. That sounds amazing. So, like, it's always... that sounds amazing. If that's true. Because... So, like, a lot of time, right? Okay. There's a lot of bad, visually bad games out there. And it's been a long time since there's been a game engine that's come out with lots of amazing assets. Like the last, or lots of generic amazing assets. Like, look, I'm thinking going all the way back to like the Source engine, because that had all the Half-Life 2 stuff in it. That's the last time I can remember where a game engine came with a whole bunch of great materials and models to use.
Bridge, our online browser for Megascans assets, has historically functioned as a standalone application for quickly exporting assets in bulk directly into the engine, albeit separate from Unreal. Today, we're happy to announce that Bridge is now natively integrated directly into the engine UI.
That sounds excellent. Yeah, developers usually do not like when tools are separate and you need a dozen different programs to just work on a game. Developers don't like that, and so having it integrated, that's very nice.
Now you can simply
And so that way you also don't have to buy and then download, then format and import. You know, if that's all just native built, that's amazing.
drag and drop assets directly
Oh,
into the
yeah.
scene for a more intuitive and connected experience. And
That's
simply logging
amazing.
in with your Epic ID gives you immediate access to thousands of assets to use for free in your Unreal Engine projects.
That's amazing. That
We are
is
constantly looking to
amazing.
enhance the value of the Megascans library. And today we're excited to announce that we're adding a brand new asset type called Mega Assemblies. Mega Assemblies are the natural next step for us in removing even more barriers for artists in crafting their worlds. By combining existing assets from the Megascans library, our artists are pre-assembling elements that can be quickly accessed and leveraged to populate your scenes.
Okay. that sounds both good and bad because, for one, oh yeah, you can make a whole canyon with just these. Oh, you just take these 5 assets, you make a whole canyon, make it look amazing. But then you play, then you put that in your game, and then you play a different game, and there's the same canyon because they use the same assets. So it's like, suppose they said they had tens of thousands of assets in the library. Suppose they have 300 of these mega assemblies. You'll have 20 for jungle. You'll have 20 or 30 for desert. You'll have 20 to 30 for like an Arctic mountain. You know, it's like, but then if you go to a game, so okay. But you see what I'm saying is like, if you have assets that are just a whole bunch of things at once, and then that's just copy pasted, like on a whole bunch of different games, players will eventually start recognizing that. No, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That can be like a comfort thing too, where players recognize it, and that makes them feel comfortable. And sure, true, you could use these as a base, customize them, add more models into it. But yeah, just pointing that out because I've seen assets get reused, and like I've seen source games, including my own. Oh, in 2022, they're using textures that are from like 2005, and everyone recognizes them. Anyways, moving on.
Using the Moab set,
Okay.
let's add an assembly to our scene.
That was easy.
And just like that, we were able to quickly change the composition.
Okay, wait. Hold on. Look at the ground. So they move it, and then look at the ground. There's like some rocks that just pop into existence.
And just like that,
Do you see that? Is that just automatically generated? Or was it already there, but it was hidden? Maybe that's the nanite thing. I don't know. Or there's the terrain filling thing, probably.
we were able to quickly change the composition of this area in our map.
I mean, that feature right there, that's not a new thing. That's been around for decades. Not decades, more like a decade and a half. So like that kind of feature was in Half-Life 2. But, okay.
With UE5, we are reimagining what collaboration looks like for teams and projects of all sizes. A
Collaboration's
common challenge
good.
when collaborating on large worlds is deciding how to structure map content so that everyone on the team can easily work without asset contention, while also avoiding painful merge conflicts.
Merge conflicts
A
are
new
bad.
system called World Partition makes traditional world building workflows obsolete by changing the way that we think about map files.
Okay, partitions. There were partitions in the Hammer editor. There are partitions in the Hammer editor, which is for Half-Life 2, which was released in like 2005 or 6. A long time ago. And they had partitions. And so this is a new thing. Well, I think it might be new to Unreal. I think. Because I don't remember partitions in UE4 unless I'm misremembering. But it's new to Unreal, so I mean, still useful, but not revolutionary by any means.
Rather than requiring artists to build out map content as a series of streaming levels, World Partition allows teams to think of a single map as one large world that gets broken down automatically into many smaller, streamable cells on a grid. These cells can be selectively loaded or unloaded in the editor to save on edit time resources.
Now that streaming, does that happen in the game too? Because I don't think, I mean, there's definitely engines before this that had that, but I know Half-Life 2 did not have that.
Allowing artists to only load up the sections of the map that they need. On top of that, changes to actors in a world partition map are tracked at the actor level, not the map level. This one file per actor approach empowers different team members to work on different actors in the same map without having to worry about their changes getting clobbered in a merge or having to revert to get someone else's edits.
Okay, so you're saying, I'm trying to understand what you just said, because that's kind of confusing.
World partition map are tracked at the actor level.
Tracked at the actor level. And so that means that for each grass actor, it knows where, so like that location is saved in an independent actor file that's independent of the map file. So that way if the map files change, the actor file will still be there and it's not a merge conflict. I think that's what he said. And so it's generating a new file for every single problem. Okay. That sounds kind of weird. I mean, I guess if it's okay. That could theoretically increase loading times because if you have a lot of files, you have a lot of files to load, and file loading is much slower than loading from RAM, although once it's loaded into the RAM, it'd be a lot better, but
not at the map level. This one file per actor approach empowers different teams.
Although that also might be irrelevant from a gamer's perspective because it's possible and probable that when the game actually gets published and shipped for players, all that gets coalesced down because players don't care about merge conflicts, right? So that probably gets simplified when the game's
team
exported.
Members to work on different actors in the same map without having to worry about their changes getting clobbered in a merge or having to revert to get someone else's edits. Now, this approach means you could have artists lighting, set dressing, and reworking the landscape simultaneously, all within the same virtual space.
That sounds nice. I'm not sure. I don't think I've heard of another engine doing that. Where, where it's like Google Docs and you get multiple people working on the same document, but it's a game. I don't think I've seen that before. So that sounds interesting.
Managing this much content at runtime typically requires a ton of thought about how to stream relevant content in and out to stay inside performance budgets. Fortunately, World Partition handles that as well.
Okay, that's what I was. Yep, that's why I asked. I asked earlier, does it handle it in the game while playing? And here they're answering yes.
Only the cells in the user-defined radius from our player are loaded, and as we move, new cells are streamed in, while cells no longer needed are replaced by their lower resolution, hierarchical level of detail, or HLOD version. And since all projects have different requirements, the cell size and loading radius are fully configurable to match each project's content streaming needs.
Awesome.
Another feature that comes along with World Partition is data layers. Data layers are a way to categorize map assets and collectively enable or disable them when you want to alter the state of the world. Working in data layers, a separate group of artists was able to assemble a mythical reimagination of the...
Okay, that's Hammerhead's that. Well, they call it Viz groups, but Hammerhead's that where if you want to hide a whole bunch of stuff and then show a whole bunch of stuff, and it's all grouped. I mean, Hammerhead that in 2006. Or 5, whichever one it was, I don't remember. Hammer had that. Although, still here, they probably... Hammer's buggy overall, so it's not probably still not as good as how they do it, but the concept's not really revolutionary.
Environment. With more interactive
elements. It's still useful for Unreal developers, but not revolutionary.
At runtime, we can swap between these two modes, streaming thousands of actors in and out, and enter into the dark world. Let's see this in action as we...
That happens while playing? That's interesting, because Hammer does not have that while playing. Although they're playing in the editor here, so maybe, I don't know, it's a gray area, but... Okay.
Go back to chance.
Let's see what they can do.
Thanks, Galen. Many runtime and interactive frameworks in Unreal Engine are getting significant updates in UE5. One thing we've added for animation is an experimental new full-body IK solver, which is designed to give you better results with less work. Here, you can see it in action as the rig for our player character, Echo, corrects itself to adjust for variations on the ground below her. It's deterministic, reliable, and around 10 times faster than before.
Okay, so inverse kinematics, this is what this is. Where animations aren't completely pre-calculated, but they're calculated real-time based on the world conditions, right? Now, would you believe it if I told you that in 1997, there was a game called Jurassic Park Trespasser And those developers are making a new engine from scratch, and it had the same thing. It had inverse kinematics too, where like, oh, the feet and the animations and the jumps and all of that was all calculated real time based on the environment. Now that game was a flop for a lot of other reasons, but it had inverse kinematics like this, where it's all like it's like its animations were completely calculated at runtime. Like, that's not an exaggeration. It was completely calculated at runtime. But like, yeah. So what I think they're about to show isn't new. I don't think Unreal Engine didn't have that, but
we've also
in the grand
added a new
scheme
framework called Game Feature Plugins
in the grand scheme of things, it's not a new technology.
that will allow you to build and ship game content in a more modular way. With Game Feature
Okay.
Plugins, numerous core gameplay features can be built in parallel with better.
See, when I think of plugins, I do not have a good association with the word plugins. I feel like, oh my gosh, plugins. Plugins are such a chore to deal with. In that, it's hard to integrate them, right? Because other things can't connect to the plugins, and plugins can't connect to other plugins. And so, like, if you're making your own game and you control the development of the game, there's not much use to them, because you might as well just do that within the game. But then, I guess, theoretically, if you're working on a larger team, plugins would be useful in that you can modularize, hey, you're focusing on just this plugin, and then you organize your development structure that way, although that could also then have downsides where later, we want to take these two plugins and merge them. It's not that easy. Well, if you had just two code features baked into the normal code, it'd be much easier to merge them. But
better
see if they show
encapsulation
us.
and finer content organization. Game Feature Plugins allow developers to add activation instructions to extend base game functionality, register new input actions for players, and interface with other frameworks such as animation. When we shifted into the dark world,
So yeah, that can also, so like plugins would be good for modders, players making content for the game after the fact. However, I don't know if that's actually what they have in mind, because maybe they think, because like modding support has gone down the wayside over the past decade. So like when modders have access to that, where they can make a plugin, and then players could download that plugin and play it in their game. I don't know. Probably depends. I don't know. We'll see.
we also
Hopefully
activated
they'll
the
show
new
that.
game feature to give Echo a brand new attack ability. All of the
Okay.
assets and logic needed for the ability, including new animations, input controls, blueprint code, VFX, and audio, are contained inside this
Okay.
plugin.
Powerful
And core game
plugins.
classes have no idea that these assets exist until we activate it. We've also added a feature called Animation Motion Warping, which allows you to manipulate root motion animations to adapt them to the world. Echo's Vault animation was authored to the specific dimensions of this rubble.
Okay.
Leveraging motion warping, we were able to add notified
This just
states
sounds
to the
like
animation
inverse
asset that
kinematics.
can react to transform data passed in via blueprints. This allowed us to reuse the same animation to vault.
Wait a minute. You saying okay? Okay, you're saying it's built in, but then here you are coding it. So which is it? Does it come with it, or do you have to set? I mean, it's configurable, right? So that's what they would say. But okay, and they're doing a distance calculation. If they're doing this just sounds like it's all just like if they're doing distance calculations here, this sounds like it's just all coded in. Like that like developers would have to do that, as opposed to just being built in. So I think they're exaggerating this
Other
part.
assets of different dimensions, like these pieces of debris, by sending information about their size into the motion warping system. Before triggering the vaulting animation, a blueprint script.
Okay, yeah, that's just inverse kinematics, but at a bigger scale. If anything, that's easier. That's easier than what they showed before with like, oh, the feet are angled to match the terrain. Because there you're working with angles, and that math is more difficult than this. Yeah, this is just inverse kinematics again. So that's complexly configured. I don't know.
Determines her
That's
rotation.
not that impressive. I'm not impressed by that.
How far she needs to move to get to the other side, and where her feet should land. Motion warping then adapts the root motion of the vault animation to match this data. Also, for the Rift Interact animation, we used motion warping to place Echo in the perfect position in order to ensure her hand would always touch the rift. So on the topic of animation, Unreal Engine 5 also includes our in-editor rigging tool, Control Rig.
They just say in-editor rigging tool controller? Is that what they said?
Also includes our in-editor rigging tool, Control Rig.
I think that's what they said. Okay. Visually impressive monster is visually impressive. So what does that have to do with rigging?
Meet the Ancient, a film-quality creature imagined and built by our friends at the Aaron Sims Creative Company. We partnered with Aaron Sims and his group of talented artists to concept the Dark World and to bring it to life through an enormous mythical adversary. Now, every single animation for the Ancient was authored wholly in Engine by the Aaron Sims creative team using Control Rig and Sequencer, our linear cinematic animation tool.
Okay, so cinematic animation within the editor. Okay. That sounds nice, and that you don't have to then go to like make it in a separate program like Maya or Blender or what have you. You can instead do it here. Okay. So this is much more, yeah, so this is useful for cinematics within the game, or also if you're wanting to make a whole movie with Unreal Engine, this is where this would be very useful.
Also, just to push the boundaries a bit, they even built it out of a collection of nanite meshes totaling over 50 million triangles attached directly to the skeleton. Control Rig was designed to keep artists close to their creations without having to bounce back and forth between software packages, allowing them to quickly iterate, all inside Unreal. While imagining the battle between Echo and the Ancient, we wanted to give the creature a heavy laser attack that Echo would have to avoid. We needed it to track Echo's location in the arena and fire a slow, sweeping blast towards her. Taking advantage of the full-body IK solver mentioned earlier, we were able to influence the direction and distance the Ancient reaches out during the firing animation.
Look at all that math! That's not... That doesn't look like a solver. It looks like I'm the developer solving it. But... Okay. That's a lot of math. Now, granted, they do have, like, I'm looking at these, so these are blueprints, these nodes. I'm looking at that full body IK, the big node, which is good, which means the node's doing a lot, but there's still a lot of big blocks in between that looks like we have to configure. So, I don't know, this does not impress me.
Based on where Echo is in the scene. Let's see the results. Here is what the base firing animation looks like. And here it is again, with the full body IK post-process layers enabled, and our info about Echo passed into Control Rig. With full body IK and Control Rig, designers and artists can now author fully dynamic animations that react to gameplay without.
So I feel like that change there could have been done, like that could have easily been just done within the existing animation tools. Granted, though, then you'd be limited by like, oh, what if Echo, this character they're talking about, is like up higher? Then you want his arm to go higher, and you wouldn't want to make a separate animation for that, right? And so maybe then you configure it to make it go high. So I guess. So yeah, so like in this case, yeah, I see what they're talking about, you know, inverse kinematics. But, and that's good, with all the comments I've already said about it. But this is just, to me, this is a bad way of showing it, because they should have shown, like, oh, Echo's moving to a higher area, and it tracks it. Right? But here, it's, like, hard to see what is he aiming at, right?
Control rig, designers...
So that's just me, that's not me commenting on the technology, that's commenting on their portrayal of it. They didn't portray it well here.
Different artists can now author fully dynamic animations that react to gameplay without having to build complex animation state machines composed of numerous animation assets.
Yep. Complex animation state machine. Are you saying that doesn't look complex? I think that looks pretty complex to me, but... Or how about, let's go back. You're saying that's not complex? That looks very complex. But maybe that's just me being a bit too simplistic. That looks very complex to me. Okay. Moving forward.
Rig, complex animation state machines composed of numerous animation assets. In Unreal Engine 5, we've completely overhauled the audio engine, centered around Metasounds, a new asset type used for every sound effect in our demo. Metasounds bring the power and flexibility found in material editors to audio creation, providing fine control for authoring procedural game audio. With full audio synthesis capabilities and a rich audio function library, Metasounds give unprecedented control over sound effects and runtime applications.
Okay, mixers, and okay, I mean, in Unreal Engine 4, I've done dynamic sound generation before. And it was a lot less complex than this. I don't know exactly what they're doing here.
Using Metasounds, we built the Ancient's laser attack out of a combination of sound samples and synthesized audio.
What? So instead of using an audio editor to mix sounds, you put 2 hours of work into making this graph? That does not sound useful at all. I mean, just use Audacity or like a different sound tool that's actually designed for sounds. Like this interface was designed for programming and logic flow, not for. I mean, I guess theoretically, this is useful in that it has like every node. Like, as opposed to, like, having a project and then you have to write down, oh, I did this modification and then this modification. Here you can see it all at once, but... Yeah, like... I feel like this exists only to give sound designers more work. And to create more sound designer jobs, because, like... Because, like, so, like, a laser sound... Like, okay, so they probably had like 3 different sound samples. I don't know. They don't say how many sound samples. Let's suppose they have 4 different sound. Or did they say? I don't think they said.
Abilities and a rich audio function library.
Or we're here at the studio mixer. It looks like they're having 5 different audio samples. Like, I could go find online some, you know, license-free sounds. 5 of them. Mix them in Audacity for like an hour. You know, or take an hour to find them, mix them together into a sound that would be like 90% of what they want here. Well, like this.
Metasounds give.
Like with this here, it's like it looks like it's going to take 3 times as long to do for like just a marginal extra maintainability.
Unprecedented
I don't know.
Effects and runtime applications. Using Metasounds, we built the Ancient's laser attack out of a combination of sound samples and synthesized audio.
That looks way more complicated than it needs to be.
Using the stereo mixer, let's isolate and play just the...
I mean, granted, like, okay, for like this kind of setup, that's like professional, where you have a sound effects engineer, right? but for like most people, I mean, I don't know. So like a sound effects engineer would go like crazy with this, right? Or it's their job. But most developers, especially students and first-time developers, this is like overkill. But
The synthesized charge sound. This effect is made by using a handful of sound wave generators and multiple modulation widgets.
okay, so I mean that could that little change could could also be done. I mean, I guess. Okay, so they're saying. So yeah, okay, yeah. With Audacity, right, you could mix. Oh, you use a dozen different sounds with these different sources. But here it looks like you generate an infinite amount of sounds based on conditions in the game. Okay. I guess that's useful.
In the stereo mixer, let's isolate and play just the synthesized charge sound. This effect is made by using a handful of sound wave generators and multiple modulation widgets. Now, let's mix back in our sound samples to hear the final result again. Alright.
I still think that's overkill. Okay.
Now, everything we've been showing you in today's demo focuses on some of the new features in UE5, but many of your
We're approaching the end.
such as Niagara particles and visual effects, chaos physics, blueprint visual scripting, and more have also received numerous updates in Unreal Engine 5.
Plus, all your UE4 projects can be upgraded to UE5, so you won't have to worry about.
That's really good. You know, an engine supporting migrating older stuff from an older engine. I love that. I wish more game engine developers, I'm looking at you, Valve, would do that. But alas, seems like Unreal is one of the few engines to do that. That's true.
Compatibility for what you're working on now.
Here at Epic, we are passionate about building great tools and new technology, and a big part of our excitement is being able to bring you, the developer community, on the journey with us. So today, we're making an early access build of Unreal Engine 5 freely available on the Epic Games Launcher and the Unreal Engine GitHub, so you can explore and test out these tools yourself to get an early look at what's coming later in the full release of UE 5.0.
Also, we're releasing the project source for Valley of the Ancient, so you can check out how we use these features to build everything you've seen in today's demonstration.
That's
We've
excellent.
got a series of deep dive conversations on these topics lined up for Inside Unreal, our official weekly live stream, where you can hear from the engine dev team and ask your questions.
Now, these are still the early days of UE5, and you can expect more news and features to be announced as we move closer to a production-ready release targeting early 2022.
Follow the Unreal Engine social channels for more information, and feel free to download the early access release of Unreal Engine 5 and the Valley of the Ancient project today.
Thanks everyone for watching, and welcome to
Okay.
Early Access.
Alright, so I hated on some stuff in this video, but I loved the other stuff. To me, the most impressive and helpful things are I don't know if I can find it, but the partitioning. I can find that. It's all blurry in the. Oh yeah, here.
System
Yeah.
called World Partition makes
To me, this is impressive. Or like, because I don't think UE4 had that. I don't think it did. Otherwise, they really wouldn't be showing it here. That's impressive because otherwise, with Unreal, you kind of have to like code that yourself, and that's really annoying getting that to be seamless. But if it's all like automatic here, you know, I mean, you still have to configure it, but it's kind of baked in. That is lovely. And then to me, the other most impressive thing is the library thing. They said like, I think they said like 10 at least 10,000 assets for free for everybody? Are you insane? That's the most, because like, it's like, with that you don't, like, it sounds like with that you don't even have to hire an environment artist to do that stuff for you. You just use what's already there. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Alright, everybody. So, that's my take on Unreal Engine 5. A lot of great new things. And I mean, it's like, too, like, a lot of this new stuff that I hated on, right? It's not like it's a bad thing. It's just not as revolutionary, or maybe not as helpful as they make it out to be. But it's still good that it's there. Absolutely, it's good that those new features are still there for those very specific, unique needs, and when you do need those. But alright, everybody. This has been a reaction video to the Unreal Engine 5 features early access video. If there's something else you think I should comment on or give a reaction to, or if I should do more reaction videos, let me know. And I'll look at what your suggestions and do them, okay? Thank you. Stay awesome, and I'll see you all next time, okay? Bye-bye.